Are you ready for phenomenal thought leadership from the most well-respected leaders in industry? Join us for stellar conversations and sound advice from trailblazers who have a passion for excellence. Learn best practices that will catapult the culture of your company into a new level of greatness. Welcome to Great Companies, Great Leaders. Your host is Christine Gannon.
Welcome to Great Companies, Great Leaders. I am Christine Gannon, your host, and I am so thrilled to have our guest with us today. We have Kathleen Duffy, the founder and CEO of Duffy Group, and can't wait to share a lot about what's going on with her and her company. I can't wait for our audience to hear about it. I want to give you a little bit of background about who Kathleen is, besides knowing she's an amazing rock star in business. But she had a pretty tremendous impetus in starting her organization 30 years ago, which we're going to talk about that. So knowing the struggles associated with being a primary caregiver and breadwinner, Kathleen wanted to create an organization with an unprecedented commitment to work-life balance, which 30 years ago, it was so needed. And today it's still so needed as we think about the environment that we're in right now with COVID. So Duffy Group was one of the first to innovate and lead an entirely remote workforce in the 90s. Kathleen's work from home program gives team members the flexibility of managing their day-to-day activities with home office support that offers the tools to conduct day-to-day operations. In the first 10 years, most of the employees were mothers who wanted to work while their children were in school, which with the new executive order that our governor signed this week, it sounds like a lot of the kiddos are going to be going back to school. So maybe we'll have more mothers working from home without their tribe. Today, with aging parents and life-threatening illnesses of spouses and children, changes in marital status, Duffy Group's culture supports the employee, providing an opportunity for the staff to care for their family and still continue working in their profession. So Kathleen, welcome. There's so much more to tell about your story, but I'm noticing that 30 years together behind you, and would just love for you to share a little bit about how this came together and your journey. What has that looked like for you?
Wow. Well, thanks, Christine. It's great to see you, and it's great to be here. So 30 years ago, I certainly did not have a business plan or even, a glimmer of a goal to start my own company. I was happily employed and doing what I love to do for an executive search firm, for a retained firm. And then towards the back end of 1990, they decided to relocate their business to the Bay Area. And it was at that point that they were going to be closing their Arizona corporation, and I was going to be unemployed. And so the game plan was originally to have me contract my time back to them, but they didn't have enough work to keep me busy, and I was the primary breadwinner in my family. So I took what I knew, which was this recruitment research, which is the foundation of every single retained search firm. But instead of selling that skill set to other retained search firms, I chose to sell them to corporate America. And so now this was the impetus of creating what I'm saying now, a third option in search from retained, contingent, and now recruitment research. But it's where companies can unbundle the search process and buy only the pieces that they need. And so, yes, I was, I was just beginning my family. We were beginning to start a family. And so that it was advantageous to be able to work from home. And then I kept meeting women who were like me, and they wanted to continue to work, but not have to feed their kids Pop-Tarts as they were taking them to school. And then it's just evolved. And even so, here we are 30 years later. I have young people in my company, new college graduates, which I would have never hired before. We have a number of men in our company too, and some of them are retired from a previous career and have come into this organization. So we have a lot more diversity in there. And as we're all learning about diversity now, it's more around diversity of thought And that's adding a real richness to our culture today.
So important what you just said. I was on a podcast earlier this week, and we were talking exactly about that, how diversity of thought is so important as we look to come out of this pandemic. Leadership is looking different than it did pre-pandemic. Some of those inherent qualities like character qualities, integrity and trust, those will never change, but keeping your workforce engaged and offering them flexible working opportunities to support that work-life balance that you talk about in your bio is so important. So congratulations again. You've been doing some stellar work. I would love to know, companies are coming to you looking for leaders a lot of the time. They're looking for experienced leaders in their search. What do you think companies consider their top needs in terms of a leader? What types of qualities are they looking for?
Well, a lot of it depends on the industry, to be honest with you, and it depends on the type of a role that they're in. So obviously, if they're looking for a human resource leader, they're looking for somebody that can provide that strategic headset on the leadership team of the people, the culture, of the organization. What are the what is the succession planning going to be? So they're looking for that. So they're looking for those forward-thinking individuals. Then you have more of the of marketing executives, right? And marketing looks very, very different today, especially with social media. And so what is that? What is it going to be about? The employment branding, the branding of the company. How do we stay, well behaved on social media and things along that line? So it really, really varies from position, function, and industry.
The search has shifted at all in terms of how leaders are coming to you and how companies are coming to you and what they're asking for? Do you think with COVID and the pandemic, has any of that shifted in what they're looking for? Are they looking for people that are more flexible? Are they looking for anything different than pre-COVID?
I don't think there's anything that's glaringly different, to be honest with you. I think employers are seeing that now, whereas before they didn't necessarily trust that they could have a remote workforce. And leaders are now finding that people are working quite well at home. They're working very efficiently, and they're probably working a lot longer hours than they had, unfortunately, right? I think that with Zoom technology, while we had all of this before, we didn't take advantage of it. And so, they're finding that, we all get zoomed out, of course, but it is the next best thing to being in person and keeping everyone safe. But then there are those opportunities for people that, now the recruiting pool just got bigger. So if I'm looking right for, a strategic leader for my company here in Phoenix, that person could actually live in Montana, Wyoming, or the Caribbean, and as long as they're able to do their job, they're finding that that's working as well. And that just opens up the talent pool.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're going to shift a little bit. I want to talk about you as a leader, because your business has done incredibly well for 30 years. And you've, I'm sure, shifted and pivoted with the times and how things have changed with industry. But core values have always remained the same. And you're known in our community and nationally, and I know internationally, with women on boards as a tremendous leader. Can you talk a little bit about what makes a phenomenal leader? What do you think about when you think about leading your team and having people want to follow you? What do you think those qualities are?
Well, there's just a gazillion of them, right? So, for me personally, it's really about being self-aware And this has been a real big thing that we're working on in our organization today. And to be able to step back and see, maybe I didn't handle that situation well, or I could have approached that person a little bit differently, and to step back and to be able to course correct. And it's hard for us, but even admitting that we were wrong and apologizing. I think that, I try to show my vulnerability too, that I want to have all of the answers. I'm more comfortable when I know the answers. And so I have to get better at being uncomfortable, because I don't know what the next 5 years are going to look like, much less the next 5 months. And with all the changes that are going on in the world, and it's okay to say that I don't know the answers right now, but I want to hear your thoughts as well, because that will help me to formulate that too, because it's our company.
Thought leadership. So looking for the thought leadership from your team and having them share their insights as well helps you become a better leader. It sounds like what you're saying.
Right. Well, we all joke about it, that we always surround ourselves with people smarter than we are, right? So.
Yes, absolutely. I had the pleasure of interviewing the Chief Human Resources Officer last week for the podcast, and she shared something similar about vulnerability that I wanted to share, in that she was very afraid to share her work-life balance struggles with her team because she was fearful of how people would react in the workplace. Instead of seeing it as an opportunity to grow the team, she was fearful that she would be shunned in some way, in terms of, not being able to have it all together. And I think that's one of the biggest hurdles for women sometimes, is not feeling comfortable to be vulnerable in the space that we're in, to say, I need some help, or I need some flexibility. And I'm still a great leader. That doesn't detract from my leadership, but I'm juggling a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think the other thing that with COVID and having to work from home is people have had to become more authentic, right? And so, we have these wonderful, backgrounds to hide things, but, I'll have calls and I don't have my background on, and that my office door is going back and forth, and my pugs are coming back and forth, or one day I was doing a webinar, and and all of a sudden the landscapers showed up. So I'm like, go away. So, people are just getting a glimpse into our home life and getting to know us a little bit better.
One of the greatest stories which went viral related to that is, do you remember when the reporter, I can't remember if we was on, it was a global news organization, and he was giving this significant report, and all of a sudden his toddler ran in, or in the jumpy or something. And, that was kind of our first glimpse of, here's what life is getting ready to look like, and I love that it was a man that was doing the presentation, because that's real life.
Absolutely. It was great. It was perfect.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about thriving as a leader. You've been in leadership for a lot longer than 30 years in terms of your experience before you started your company, and stepping into a CEO role for your company. How do you think leaders strive? Like, what do they need to do to take care of themselves, to stay grounded, and to continue to be good leaders?
Well, for me, I always say my drug of choice is exercise. And I'm pre-COVID, I was a big Orange Theory. Would go to Orange Theory, and I loved Orange Theory, and it was my time for me, and I made that time for me. And so that, I think, is really important, is to make time and give yourselves permission to have, to do the exercise, to do the things that keep you healthy. When I'm talking with my employees who have children that are in grade school or at school period, right? They don't necessarily, they may not have that kind of time because their other job is their family. And so I just say, it's okay, you'll get here, and just go take, a 10-minute meditation. And we've actually been, we with our healthcare program, they're actually doing a lot more mental health applications, and where you can meditate, you listen to music, and so we're encouraging people to do that. I think the other thing that we have to really make sure our employees don't think is that they have to do everything that we do. I probably work a lot more hours than I should, but you just never know what's going to happen. And I don't expect my employees to, if I happen to send them a text at 6:30 at night because I just think of something, I don't expect them to reply to me. And I let them know that, give them permission to do it. So I try not to send them messages on off hours because they all feel compelled to do it. But I think it's really more about, we just have to give ourselves permission as leaders to take a break and even to take a day off.
Right? A day off just to regroup. We're so much, our mental clarity improves, right? Studies show it. We have increased mental clarity and thinking capacity when we just take a breather and take a break. And I love those 10-minute meditations. They're easy to do, but hard to get yourself away from what you're in. You think everything can't wait. So I love those ideas. And related to that, Kathleen, we know that culture starts with the leaders. So if we have leaders that are taking good self-care, that are self-aware, good self-care, taking care of themselves, and they're leading their teams, what do you think? What do you think is most important as leaders think about culture and they think about shaping the culture, especially as we come out of this pandemic? Have you been hearing from leaders how they may be shifting their culture or staying better engaged with their employees?
And as a matter of fact, we have really made a concerted effort this year in our company to really focus on psychological safety. Where people can take a risk and they can do it without being insecure or being afraid that they're going to make a glaring mistake and be frightfully embarrassed. And so that's something that we've been working on in our company, and we just really want people to feel okay with making that mistake and learning from it, as opposed to being, beat up. So, you send the email, and it goes a little sooner than you wanted to because you didn't quite get the tone correct. Okay, we're not going to beat you up for that. It happens to all of us, and you'll probably never do it again. We also are really embracing that it's about, we have to get better, but not perfect. We also are working on our communication because, again, with a heavily female population, we're problem solvers. And so, you come to me with an issue, Christine, and I'm going to solve your problem. And we're really learning to ask about that and help you to come to the conclusion. So, it's a year-long journey that we're on right now. And the other thing is about, and I think just for all of us as leaders, is it's really just about being present and knowing that not everyone operates, or their operating system is not the same as mine. And especially at an executive level, I'm a kind of an unusual executive because I'm a real feeler, and a lot more CEOs are more action oriented than I am. But that's what's about my culture. We're a feeling culture.
That's why you're such a tremendous leader as well, because you're bringing the feeling side of things and the strategic thinking and the visionary. You're bringing all those pieces together. So I really see that in you in terms of your tremendous leadership. So thank you for bringing that to our community and companies as they come to you for assistance. So I want to close and just give you an opportunity to share a little bit about your company and who should reach out to you and what would they reach out to you for?
Oh, sure. Thank you. So, Duffy Group is really an executive recruiting firm, an executive search firm. As a matter of fact, we were just ranked number 5 in the book of lists. So we're pretty excited about that ranking. But as I said earlier, we're doing something different, and we've unbundled the search process. And whereas traditional search firms, their fees are calculated based on a percentage of the candidate's population, our fees are we work in billable time. So it allows the client to really manage their recruiting budget and really only buy the pieces of the search process that they need. So we work for employers. We do not represent candidates in their job search, and we work in all functional areas. And in the majority of our industries that we are working in right now are the renewable energy, higher education, nonprofit, construction, healthcare is very large right now. Trying to think what else. Manufacturing, we're doing a lot of work in manufacturing as too. So, and we try to work with just a couple of clients in each space because we really want to be an extension of their team. So we're doing a lot of the things that they can't do, which is really go after that very passive candidate. And we do that by proactively targeting the folks that are not looking at job postings.
Very good. Very good. So I think that's a great explanation because you're not representing the candidate. Employers are coming to, and are they local or national, global?
Yes, all of the above.
Okay, very good. Well, Kathleen, congratulations again on your 30 years. Way to go. Way to go to be number 5 as well in the book of lists. That's so incredible. And people can find you at Duffy Group.
Right, duffygroup.com. And then they can also follow us on, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks, Christine.
Brightworks Consulting hosts this podcast and YouTube channel to spotlight the leadership around the world that is changing lives. Brightworks offers a myriad of consulting services in the public and private sector, to include diversity, equity, and inclusion solutions for any size company. You can find us at www.brightworksconsulting.com. We're honored to have Best Companies AZ as a presenting sponsor for this podcast. Best Companies AZ is your #1 source for regional employer branding. You can find them at www.bestcompaniesaz.com.